Hey everybody, today in this video I want to walk through a recent gallery with you and show you some of the preview images and tell you how I shot them. So the way that I deliver galleries to our wedding clients is I'll typically deliver a preview of around 100 digital images to them within the week after their wedding. It's usually in a few days after the wedding, depending on how busy I currently am. But it's within the week of their wedding, I'll deliver them a digital preview, and then typically within 2 weeks, or whenever I get the film scans back, I'll deliver a film preview. So today we're gonna just look at a film preview from a recent wedding, and I'm gonna talk through each image and tell you about the image and how I shot it. All right, so here we go. I have my Lightroom catalog open. On the left-hand side in the collections, I've gone ahead and created a few different collections. So I have one for welcome, one for wedding day, and then the preview, 131 images, which was the digital preview. And here in the film preview, I have about 50 images. My previous import up here, 586, that was all the film that I shot from the wedding. So out of the 586 film images, I gave them 50 film images as a preview. So this wedding, we shot the welcome dinner and the wedding day. So this first photo is from their welcome dinner the night before. This photo was captured on the Leica M6 with the 35mm f1.4 Summilux. I was shooting Portra 400 for all of the color film, I believe. That's really the film stock that I use most often. The other film stock that I use is Tri-X 400, which you'll see some examples later on. I also shoot Portra 400 in medium format. And then when I'm metering on the Leica, usually I just try to overexpose the film slightly, and I meter for the shadows, and I develop it at box speed, so I don't push or pull typically. And I am trying to slightly overexpose and still metering for the shadows. So usually that just means pointing my camera towards the shadows, and on the Leica, I'm looking for the dot in the middle and the arrow to the right, just to make sure that I am slightly overexposed. Here's an image inside, so that 1.4 aperture of the 35 really came in handy here. This light is coming in from a big, massive window in this restaurant, and we just had her lean up against this like cool furniture piece. Same setup here for this image, same lighting, same setup, just a little bit tighter of a shot. That 35 is so sharp, it creates really beautiful, detailed photos. This is a photo that I captured with flash on the Leica. So usually when I'm shooting flash, I'll shoot the flash at full power at f8 for 400 speed film, and I can get kind of close like this and get really beautiful kind of vibey shots. If I'm shooting on a wider lens, I sometimes also like to zoom in the flash so that I get this kind of natural vignetting effect in the photos, which is just kind of like a personal artistic preference that I've been enjoying recently. This one's interesting. I actually had a roll of Delta 3200 and 120 that I just had sitting around for so long, and I decided to shoot it at this event because the space is slightly dark and the color casts can be really intense inside. Lots of weird light hues and kind of like dimly lit rooms inside of this restaurant. So I thought that this like kind of like high speed black and white film would be good. And it created some really nice images. This was one of them in that same setup, just ambiently. And here's another one, also Delta 3200. This was just one roll that I shot on the Contax 645, but really loved this moment of the groom's mom and her friends just having this hug right outside of the restaurant. This is actually one of my favorite photos from that evening. And 3200 is not a film stock that I use regularly, but these two photos are kind of making me want to shoot more of it. This is on the Holga. So I have a big Canon flash that I use for the Holga, and recently what I've been doing is keeping the Holga, the lens turned all the way to the closest setting. So I'm as closely focused as I can get on the Holga, and then I'll have like a big flash with lots of power, and I'll just hold it above the subject and fire off a flash. So the Holga only has 12 frames, so I'm always waiting. I'm like, I have the Holga and I'm like waiting like a creeper for the right moment, and then I'll lift it up and take the picture. But you have to be kind of close, and you have to have a high power flash, but then you can get really awesome photos like this with like lots of life and energy. And I only really use the Holga for flash. I don't use it for anything else. I think that that's for me the only way that camera is usable, and it's so interesting and cool that I can't let it go. So this is a fun Holga frame. Here's another one, similar kind of example of just like waiting for the moment and then getting this cool, awesome cheer moment. This is on the Leica M6 again. Same kind of settings as I told you earlier with the flash. Similar to the Holga, you know, when I have a flash on the Leica, I just love to wait for the moment to happen and then fire it off, and you get really awesome photos like this. I've been loving direct flash for film photos recently. It's kind of becoming a new part of the style. This is actually a photo on the Contax 645 from wedding day, just like an establishing shot. I always like to get a couple of these on the Contax because they make beautiful landscape images. Detail shot on the Contax. We love details in sort of dappled light here, and the Contax, well, 120 film really renders that quite beautifully. We actually set this up on the backdrop that we had for this wedding day. Here's she is in her dress. This is right before first look. Again, right before first look in beautiful light. This is on the Contax. So far, all of these wedding day images were shot on the Contax 645, so you can get that like really beautiful crispness from the 120 film in the Contax. And I've been shooting them kind of stopped down, so like at f4, I would say, most of the time recently. And it creates this really, really beautiful, sharp image. These kind of look like they could be digital photos, but they're 120 film. Here's a groom portrait on 120 film, also on the Contax. And again, the 120 even at f4 is like so shallow, so this one I kind of misfocused, but I really liked that quality. And here is an establishing shot of that first look. We had like a weird something in the upper corner of the film. If you know what this is, let me know. I think it's the paper, the wrapping from the 120 film roll that got kind of left on there and then ended up blocking part of the exposure. But let me know if you think that that's something else. Again, first look, again, Contax. Now this is on the Leica, so I had Tri-X 400 in the Leica. I've been liking shooting black and white in the Leica and color film in the Contax, and my black and white of choice is typically Tri-X 400. Again, Tri-X 400 on the Leica. I think I was on the 50mm lens for this. I'm not entirely sure, but it looks like it was the 50. I might be wrong. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Here's an indoor shot on the Contax 645, Portra 400 again, the bridal party. I just thought this was like kind of an awesome like image. This photo, I believe, was captured on the Contax G2 by Dune. I think she was shooting on the 45mm lens for this. That camera is similar to the Leica M6 in form factor, but very different in use, but also creates really beautiful images because of the Zeiss lenses. I have really grown to love the Leica experience, but the Contax is also a great option for like a small 35mm camera. Contax 645, this is the escort table. Again, Contax, this is ceremony details. And ceremony, this is again on the Leica Tri-X 400 and also on the Leica Tri-X 400. I love these kind of like documentary photos. The Leica is really great for that. And I think like black and white film is also really great for that. So, you know, see here, like this is just guests waiting for ceremony. This is the owner of the property who happened to be sitting there. He was wearing this like white suit, basically. He looked awesome. So I loved this moment, just him completely lit up in the sun on black and white film. I thought it was like really cool, and like with the Nikes, like it's so cool. And then this is the groom's parents just waiting for the ceremony to begin. Also just like a really beautiful documentary moment. Here's the groom waiting to see his bride walk down the aisle, again in black and white. Just like, I like this for like direct sun, and the Tri-X has such a really beautiful look to it. And here's ceremony in black and white. This is all still on the Leica Tri-X 400, and this is right after ceremony. This is sunset on the Contax 645. Contax 645 sunset again. Just really, really beautiful photos here. Found some really nice light, beautiful spots to take images for sunset photos. And I love sort of how the light is rendered here in the film. Here's a reception detail also captured on film. I love the Contax 645 for portraits and for details like this. Here's a photo of some of the food from the day. So this one's on the Contax 645. It was getting a little bit darker, so I think I opened up to f2 here. But I love the way the Contax renders like detail photos, especially like food photos like this. It always looks so delicious, you know, when you're photographing it on the Contax on medium format. Or I find like on an 85mm lens, the more dreamy sort of equipment you use to capture food, the better, because it always looks more delicious. At least that's been my experience with capturing film on a wedding day. This is completely opposite. This is more like documentary style, which I've been loving, which is just film direct flash of food kind of pointing down. So this is on the Leica, and I just kind of got focused and held it up like f8, probably, again full power on the flash, 400 speed film. Guests like serving themselves from this amazing buffet of food. The owner of the property is also a restaurateur. So he actually provided the catering for this event, which was really cool. The food was absolutely amazing. I thought this was just like such a cool moment of everyone coming to the table to fill their plates with food. And it's messy and kind of crazy. It's not like this beautiful like glam shot, but I love that because it's so documentary. And again, I think the Leica like really, accentuates that really well. Contax scene setting shot of everyone at dinner with this beautiful mountain view behind them, which was pretty. The couple on the Leica with the 35mm lens again. Yeah, I love getting a photo of the couple at the table. It's kind of like something I've always done pretty much at every wedding I've ever shot. I just think it's like a fun, nice little keepsake for them to just, see themselves sitting at their dinner table. I switched in the evening to the Canon EOS 3 with a 35mm and the ProPhoto flash for Canon. I think that's what this photo is on. And I was shooting it the same way, kind of like more closed aperture, full power on flash. And I just sort of wait for reactions of, this was during toast. So wait for those laughs, wait for those reactions. Again, I love direct flash like this for those kind of photos. Here's another example of the Holga photos that I was showing you earlier. They're so good for reactions. I save the Holga all day because I use it with flash. So usually I'll shoot like 2 rolls in the evening, or that's what I've been doing recently. Again, here, I don't know quite if this was on the Leica or the Canon camera, but one of those 35mm flash. Pretty sure this one was on the Leica with flash. I think I had the 35mm on. See, this is the thing about shooting film. I don't always remember which cameras I had on me, but I think this one was the Leica. I think at this point I had the 35mm on. Same for this one, probably. Can't quite remember, but it was 35mm, either the Canon or the Leica. So this was on the Canon camera with the 35mm lens. And for this one, I actually had my ProPhoto flash in my hand, and I had a trigger on the camera. So I was like kind of like off camera flash direct from above, and it created this like really beautiful kind of light. This was the first time that I was really experimenting with doing that, but I really love the result that it created here, like kind of like glam lighting for the dance floor, which I think is like really cool. This is the same setup with that light from above, this one too. So you can see like the quality of the light is like really nice. It makes everybody look like so glam and cool on the dance floor. This one, I think this one was also on the Canon camera. Could have been the Leica. I also had the Leica on me. I was shooting a 35mm on both of them, I think, at this point. So can't really quite remember. This one is a Holga shot, I think. Holga. Again, dance floor Holga. Yeah. So, that's it. So those are the photos that I had to share with you. As you can see, I use a lot of film cameras on a wedding day, but each of them sort of has their place. The 2 that I use, well, I would say the 3 that I use most often are the Canon EOS 3, the Leica M6, and the Contax 645. The Leica's the one that's always on me pretty much no matter what, and that's more of my documentary camera. Sometimes I'll put my digital camera down and use the Canon camera as like my workhorse camera. That's the Canon EOS 3. It's a film camera. If I have like a really film heavy setup throughout the day at certain points, most of the time I have a digital camera on me. So it's kind of rare that I would have only film cameras, but the EOS 3 is like a fast enough camera that it can create a heavier film setup. And the Contax 645 is kind of like my portrait and details, like scene setting camera. So that one is on me a lot of the time. Once the sun goes down, I kind of put the Contax away and I'm shooting digital with the Leica and the Canon with the flash on film, and then usually ambiently on digital. That's kind of how I've been working recently. And then I bring the Holga in the mix too, like I was saying, for late night with flash. So yeah, there you go. I hope this was interesting to you. If you have questions, let me know. I'd be happy to answer them in the comments. If you have any sort of reactions or thoughts or just comments in general, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.